I worked at Wegmans today from 12:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. during which I primarily restocked the hard items section of the produce department, while every now and then spending 15 to 30 minutes restocking the banana section of the produce department. I took my 15-minute break, my only one today, at around 4:15 p.m. After doing so was suggested to me by a coworker I view as a supervisor, as at that time pretty much every section within the produce department was full. We looked pretty good in terms of restocks. During my 15-minute break, I had a pack of sushi with a 16-ounce bottle of Upstate Farms branded whole milk. And I recall waking up today to an 11 in the morning alarm I set on my laptop through a third-party website. And I also set an alarm on my phone for the same time through the clock app, which came pre-installed when I first got this phone years ago, around the time of my trip to Italy and Greece. Though I recall both alarms went off at the same time. The one I set on my laptop and the one I set on my phone. As I went to bed around 6:30 in the morning, and I didn't want to risk oversleeping and being late for work. I accidentally snoozed. The alarm on my phone. And then when it went off, I realized this when it went off shortly after it went off 5 minutes later. And I then dismissed it. I recall having 1 cup of plain coffee at my dad's place before my mom came over at my dad's place to drive me to the Wegmans I work at. About a few minutes before noon. I had at least one Keurig pod, Wegmans generic brand, of coffee during the first half hour to hour of my shift today. And then after my dad picked me up at the end of my shift and drove me back to his place, I had what was left of the morning pot of coffee. I think roughly from about 6:30 p.m. To about 8 p.m. To about 8 p.m. I recall, according to my phone, the sort of weather app, that's kind of a widget on the first tab of the phone screens, the one that display all of your apps. It was around 67 degrees Fahrenheit around the time my mom drove me to the Wegmans I work at. And if I recall, it was colder by the time my dad took me from the Wegmans I work at to his place. More around the 50s degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, I didn't need. There was no point in wearing a jacket today, so I didn't wear a jacket today. When I was driven to the Wegmans I work at. I remember today was partially cloudy and somewhat sunny. I recall having a full cup of plain coffee and then a partial cup of coffee that was about roughly a third of a cup of plain coffee in order to have the rest of the morning pot of coffee my dad made. And during the evening hours following my dad driving me back to his place after my shift at Wegmans,